How many of you have read the book Unit X? Anybody else have read the book? How many of you have heard of an organization called Kessel Run up in Boston? So they talk a little bit about the origins of Kessel Run, right? So Eric Schmidt and Raj Shah went to Qatar to the Combined Air Operations Center in Al Udeid, and they see these company grade officers and junior field grade officers, so captains and majors, around this whiteboard with pencils and pens doing tanker refueling planning. Eric sees this and says to Raj Shah, "What the hell is that?" And they're doing the tanker refueling planning, sir. This is the way I did it when I was F-16 pilot in the desert. He's like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen." He goes, "I know this multi-trillion-dollar company that does coding. You should probably talk with them and sort of try to figure it out." So based off of that conversation, Raj tasked a guy by the name of Enrique Odi, who's a phenomenal person, to go off and fix this problem. Enrique finds eventually 6 airmen, and they actually put together functionality that replaced that whiteboard activity in the span of 4 months for $1.5 million. Now, prior to that, for the previous 8 years, a large defense industrial prime had a contract for hundreds of millions of dollars to do the exact same thing, and for 7+ years, they could not give that same basic rudimentary functionality. Senator John McCain, rest his soul, heard about this and said, "We're going to go ahead and cancel that contract," which inflamed the then CEO of said large prime, right? The reason why I bring this up is that that was one of the first instantiations of a non-traditional way of actually getting effects on target happened. Subsequent to that, you have programs or companies like Shield AI, you have Saronic, you have all of these multi-billion-dollar venture-backed entities that are doing things. Anduril is probably the best case scenario, right? All of that activity, how is that impacting you in a positive and negative way? And what are you trying to do to sort of navigate that to your success? I'll start with you, Brandon.
So I haven't been doing this long enough to have a great sense of the history and the change of attitude. But what I have noticed over the past 10 years in this space, and it started a little bit, I think, with GSIX, and then AFWorks and SoftWorks and all these other entities, is just an open-minded attitude. I remember I came to the announcement here in Austin of, I believe it was GSIX at the time, and I remember looking around the room and just noticing the wardrobe differences. There was 3 categories of wardrobe. There were guys in suits, like that's Lockheed and Boeing, and they're showing up. There were guys dressed kind of like me. And then there were guys who showed up on a skateboard in shorts and a t-shirt. And the folks who were briefing from DIU cared about those people, and everybody else was like, "Ah, you guys are just along for the ride." And I think that attitude is why Army Futures Command is here in Austin. I think it's pretty impressive. I know that SoftWorks has a boot camp where they take the dudes who show up on skateboards in shorts and a t-shirt, and they put them through business processes to allow them to really meet some of the FAR-based contract requirements, so that they can do business with the Department of Defense. That didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. Nobody really cared about that kind of innovation. And I think that's just amazing, because then you get folks who are wanting to build jetpacks and all sorts of crazy, crazy ideas, and they're going to turn it into reality. So,
Please.
Yeah, I mean, we do stuff with some of the traditional defence primes, but I think the new kind of defence primes, the Andurils, the Palantirs, they're far more open to collaboration. I think there's a little bit less kind of feeling that they know everything. So I think it is better, and I think it's better for everyone, for us, for defending the nation, where people do collaborate properly. I think sometimes it's some of the big defence primes go, "Oh, we'll partner with an SME because it's a tick box. We get extra brownie points if we partner with SMEs." I think some of the newer defence primes, like they say, the Andurils, the Palantirs, they understand the value of smaller teams. They understand the value of the guys with the skateboards. My CEO, although he's 50, he does still skateboard and looks like someone's called him a failed 80s rocker recently. Sorry, Andy, if you ever see this, that wasn't me saying that. But I think it's having different mindsets. I mean, just to give you an example, one of the developers I know, he looks like a Hollywood caricature of a developer, the stereotype. And he was there briefing into a unit of a special forces unit, and there was a guy there was full alpha male, all the muscles, and he did trained people in hand armed combat. And the guy said to this special forces guy said to this little developer who wouldn't do eye contact, would just look. He just said, I could break every bone in your legs in less than a minute. What'd you say about it? And this developer didn't lift up from the keyboard. He goes, yeah, you're probably right, but in 24 hours I can make you look like a paedophile. And it was that realization, sitting there, that special forces guy was, oh God, the world has changed. And he was right. In 24 hours you can make, you can destroy his life. Your legs will mend. You won't get over that. And I think, but it was that one developer, no social skills, no eye contact. He could be a force multiplier. Will he get a job at Microsoft or Lockheed? No, absolutely not. He's not that kind of character. But where those developers live in companies like mine, we have the mavericks, the people who won't get jobs elsewhere. Now I'm up here on stage because I have a few social skills, not many, but a few. But generally we're a home for the mavericks. We're the home for the people who don't want to be in a big corporate wearing suits, but they are the force multipliers. And that's why I think some of the defence in the UK is trying to work more with SMEs, because they understand that now.
So one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking, I was thinking about the war in Ukraine and how fast the Ukrainians are changing their technology. And I'm thinking about layering that onto our, just say the Army requirements process. Those things just aren't compatible. And we go over every quarter to Ukraine. And companies that are our size or plus or minus a little bit are the ones we're going with. Friends of ours who are, doing a drone startup or a USV startup or whatever are the ones who go with us. I'm not saying that General Dynamics is not in Ukraine. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they've got smart folks doing work there. But the reason we go is because we have to continue to innovate based on what the enemy is doing. And then we bring back new solutions. Fortunately, we're working with SOCOM, and so they're able to adapt their purchase process. But it's not translating to the Army or the Marine Corps.
The big Army and the big Marines,
The big
yeah.
Army,
Yeah, and that, SOCOM, like we talked about, is a great conduit into that. So is DIU to actually go ahead and try to encourage things to happen at scale. But this is not going to change until we actually get things being adopted at scale.